All right, I guess let's get started. So, guys, this is PPC Take Action Group number 3, and Rob is on the hot seat, I guess, or we call it. He's going to be telling us about how to review search terms. We've covered how to find search terms to get started, how to plug those in. Common did a great job last week, or 2 weeks ago, actually, with how to set up your actual ads. And then so now we're going to review the search terms. So, Rob, I'll let you go for it.
Okay, let me see. Let me try to share my screen here. Not allowing me.
Let me make sure it's set right here.
So I see my share screen, but it's saying disabled.
Okay. I'll fix it here.
Huh.
All participants can do it.
It's weird. Just make sure. Meeting.
Stefan, what are you doing wearing a jacket? I thought it was warm there.
No. I mean, it's probably warm to a lot of other people, but it's like 60-something degrees. We don't have heat because we don't normally get this cold. I was out this morning. I had a fire going. Like, 68. I was like, oh no.
There we go.
All right.
And I have snow.
Yay.
You can keep that. No, thank you.
Get it here. You guys can see my...
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. All righty. So yeah, let's move forward on this. You know, when I was trying to put this together, I was trying to think, you know, what's the best way to go about it? Because so many people have different variations of their experience levels, and whether they're data type person like myself that loves to look at data, and other people, you know, they get the deer in the headlight look when they, you know, are dealing with data. So I wanted to focus more on the actions, the things to do, take action, and kind of give an overview of things without getting too detailed in the data. And I'm actually not even going to go as specific of the data or into just overview and kind of understanding how the pieces come together into the search term report. So I wanted to kind of go at the beginning, just some quick highlights, since it's been basically a couple of weeks since we've met, and actually over a month since we've kind of talked about search term reports and analyzing data. Wanted to go over a quick flow of the data and show kind of the process and where those pieces come together on to be able to get into the search term report, where they're coming from. Talk about the criteria that we're using as guidelines, go over some issues chart, and then answer questions. So that is what I want to do. Like I said, my focus really is just helping make decisions and take action based on the data that we're seeing in the search term report, not getting into the specifics of what each piece means per se. Mm-hmm. So first thing, and I think most people know, but sometimes either they forget or maybe they don't know, that only key.
Sorry, a second.
Okay.
Sorry, Rob. I was muting some folks. I accidentally muted you.
Okay, still?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, perfect. The keywords do not show up in the search term report unless somebody clicks on your ad, right? You can see the impressions if you go to the campaign manager, and you can see what impressions are there, but unless somebody clicks on an ad for that keyword, that data does not show up in the search term report. So therefore, especially at the beginning, you know, our whole process is to buy data, to find information that we can utilize to better improve our listings, that we need to make it enticing that somebody's going to click on our ad. So how do we do that? So what are some things that we can easily do? Basically, 3 basic things that people look at to consider what you do when you're displaying an ad and have somebody click on it. First is make sure the price is lower than your competition. It's really hard to say how much lower. it depends on how competitive the market you're in. Many factors that will determine that, if there's a lot of reviews on the other listings. But I would say at least start a few dollars less just to see what the action is and if you are getting the clicks taking place or not. So that's a quick test there. Images is a big thing too. When somebody's looking at an ad, they like to see a nice image to be able to entice them to click. And the title itself also is another thing that we want to look at. The other thing on an overview is many times we've talked about this before, just kind of a reminder that you can spend a lot of money in sponsored ads if you're not reviewing your search term daily and removing those keywords that are costing you a lot of money. So we want to make sure that if we're seeing your budget be drained by a few keywords that are just taking, all of your money out, make sure you put those in a negative, match keywords for each campaign that you're doing. And also make sure to set your global daily budget to the level that you want to spend per day so that you don't spend a ton of money as we're going through this. And as time goes by, you'll start seeing, the amounts you spend should start going down because you're going to really refine your listing moving forward and your ads. I also wanted to touch base with the PPI, the Proven Performance Inventory module. I'm not sure if everybody has looked at it, but even if you haven't, there's two basic things they talk about is when you're doing an analysis. Is it a conversion problem or is it a traffic problem? And I think it's a really good thing to focus on when you're looking at search term data or any data with regards to Amazon, because it doesn't make any sense. If you're not converting, then it doesn't make sense to try to find other high traffic keywords, right? That's not going to help you. And vice versa. If you have a ton of traffic, but you're not converting, it doesn't make sense to try to find more keywords to drive more traffic in because you're not converting anyhow. So you want to use that as you're looking at your data to make the sense of what is my next action that I need to do. So here's the main components that we're looking for on the search term report. Your impressions, clicks, click-through rate, cost per click, and the advertising cost of sales. And so what I wanted to show you right now is a graphic here, just to give you an example of how the flow goes and where the data of these pieces of the search term report come from and how they get into that search term report. So it starts at the upper left. Customer does a search on Amazon. If the keyword phrase that they typed in is in your listing and in your sponsored ad, right, that will then be potential that your ad is going to show up. The next particular thing that they look at, or you look at, is the relevancy. Is it relevant to the keyword based on the product listing that you have? And that's normally from the currently the title. Title is a main driving factor as in determining your relevancy, and especially at the beginning of your title for that keyword. If those things are met, then your ad is in general eligible to be displayed, but still may not be. And the main reason that may not be is depends on what your bid is on that ad. And we'll talk about some other things in a little bit also that influence that in your budget and things. But if you're bidding, say, $3 and all your other competitors are bidding above that, your ad may not show up at all or at a very low level, right? So hopefully if you have a reasonable level of a low competition product, then you should be able to have your ad show up and hopefully top of search is really what we want to do. So every time that you have that will then, your ad will then show, and that'll be an impression. So every time there's a search, you're eligible to show, it'll show, and you'll get a click, or it'll show up as an impression for the search term report. However, it will not show up in the search term report until somebody clicks on that. So this is really what we're trying to get here, is the clicks. And the main things you want to focus on is the main image, price, and title to entice them to click on the ad. Once they click on the ad, then it's eligible to go, or it'll show up into the search term report. The once you click, just like we've talked about before, pay per click is you only pay when somebody clicks on it, which is what we want since we're buying data. Then you'll be charged an amount based on that click. That amount initially is a little higher, but it will decrease over time as both you become more optimized in your listing, you're relevant, you'll be more relevant, your quality score that Amazon manages will get better. Depends also on your competition, and you prove your conversion. All of those things seem to have factors of decreasing your cost per click over time. And then those two things together, your clicks and your cost per click, becomes your ad spend. So basically that's the ultimate thing we're trying to do initially, is to get to this point, to get data into the search term report so that we can evaluate opportunities and market or keywords we can target that allows us to get for a low cost, get our product listing in front of people. Over time, you'll then update your listing through the search term report information. We'll update titles, other aspects of things. And then eventually we'll get sales if we provide benefits and a value for the people that want to therefore buy your product. So all of those items are eligible to be or will be in the search term report. The other couple things, just where they come from, the click-through rate is the your clicks, which are here, divided by your impressions that we just talked about, times 100. That gives you your click-through rate. So obviously the higher clicks that you have will increase that number. And the last thing is your ACoS, which is your ad spend that we talked about here, divided by your sales. And then multiply that by 100 also to give the percentage. So that gives you kind of an overview, the flow, where those data pieces come from, and how they show up in the search term report. Right.
Awesome.
Let's go back to here. Do that. So here's the general guidelines we're using. And again, these are guidelines that we're trying to go for, just a place to kind of gauge where you're at. And that normally when you first start out, you're not going to see these unless you have a really low competition, low niche market you're after, and maybe you've done a lot of a data analysis at the beginning. But normally the way we've been teaching is we're going to get you started. You may not hit these initially, but these are things to go for. So we want the impressions to be greater than 200 and ideally greater than 500. Your click-through rate, greater than 1%, ideally greater than 5%. Cost per click, less than $1.50, and ideally less than 75 cents. And ACoS, we want less than 30% and ideally less than 10%. How long these would take to achieve really is dependent on many factors. How long you've been a seller, what your performance indicators are, how well you're converting, what type of products you're searching and keywords and the like. So, it can be really quick if you have a low competition product, but it may take a little longer in other cases. But these are targets you want to go for. And as you improve and work on optimizing your listing and getting sales, these things will decrease over time. So that's what I was saying here. The metrics will improve. And it's all about the ACoS really. If the other guidelines are outside, but your ACoS is 10% or lower, not as big of a deal to focus on. You always want to improve, obviously, but if your CPC is a little high, but your ACoS is low, especially if you have a higher ticket item, that may not be as much of an issue to focus on. Just wanted to go over a quick ACoS issues that people run into that you can deal with. Two main things that usually are causes for the high ACoS and what you can do about it. Make sure that the listing is relevant. Kind of we were talking about getting the keywords into the title at the beginning of the title, and also is it really what the customer is expecting for a search on Amazon? If you're targeting a kitchen timer and the keywords, when you search that on Amazon and you don't see kitchen timers or they don't really match your product, you're going to have a hard time getting a decent ACOS and getting good conversions without spending a lot of money. And a lot of times your ads won't even show in those cases. So if it's not relevant, find more relevant keywords. This could be where tools can come in and give you some ideas, but you just want to try other types of keywords and make sure you're in that listing if you're not getting relevant keywords showing up. The other thing is a lot of times people will target higher search volume keywords that may be more competitive and harder to get organic or even, rankings on sponsored ads. So another strategy is to look for several lower search term volumes that have high priority or that have, high opportunity, which means nobody else is really using those in your target for that target keyword in the title. And you can either use a tool to find that out. You can look at your listings and see, are the titles containing those keywords? And if not, then that becomes a high opportunity keyword. And a lot of times searching for multiple lower search term volumes, when you add in multiple together, a lot of times can give you better results than targeting a higher search term volume if you're having troubles with your ACOS. With regards to when we were talking about impressions before, just wanted to talk that based on your budget, you're only going to show so many times before you run out of budget, and even if you're not really running out of budget, Amazon will still only show so many based on your budget and to kind of spread that out. And as Amazon is trying to understand your product, especially at the beginning, they may rotate in different types of keywords. So you can either allow Amazon to do that, and this particular strategy is not anything that's really critical, but sometimes if you have a low budget, instead of saying, if we started out with 3 to 5 keywords, let's say you had 5 seed keywords that were starting at the beginning, or main keywords, you could disable all of them in your exact match campaign and maybe just enable 1 or 2 of them. And then if, let's say for your daily budget, you're only going to get 1,000 impressions because of that budget amount, then you can kind of manage yourself which keywords will be showing up and being able then to say after a day or two, disable those, enable another batch, and then you manage that and doing that rotation instead of Amazon to see which one's performing better. So it's just another idea of, the limit that you have, especially if you have a low budget, how many impressions you can get and controlling that. One other quick thing, title changes. Just when you make title changes and we talk about optimization and doing that, that will have a negative effect short term, because every time we make a change in there, the algorithm needs to then reevaluate what that product now is and what you're trying to target. So you will take that kind of 1 step backwards to go to 2 forward. And most people, and I think in our situation that we're doing right now, this isn't an issue, but as you move forward and you become more established and you have products and you're trying to improve upon them, just realize that you will have a negative setback on the short term. So don't do it. Like if you had something established now, you wouldn't want to do it during Q4, or if you had a seasonal product that was popular, say in the summertime, you wouldn't want to do it then. You'd do it in the winter or spring or fall or whatever. So just wanted to kind of throw that out just to be aware of that as you move forward and become more established in your products and your listings. Other thing I just wanted to go over real quick is some of the issues. I don't know if everybody has seen this. I think Jenny has posted this on the site, but it's just a quick guide that goes over, each of the criteria we're looking at and saying if it's high or low, what might be causing that, and then the actions that you want to do to correct that. And most of it is just the same things we were just talking about. If you have low impressions, one of the things you can do too with low impressions is make sure your ad is actually running. So you can take that keyword that you're targeting, do a search on Amazon and see if your ad is showing up. It may take, if you're not getting top of search, if it's more competitive, you may have to scroll down a little bit, look for it. But if you don't see it, go ahead and contact Amazon Seller Central and say, I'm not, my ad's not showing. Can you evaluate that for me and give me some feedback on why that is? Relevancy, let's see. I think same thing we talked about, rotating out keywords for impressions. Clicks, probably the main thing here is update the pictures. Cost per click, these will decrease over time, but you can try to find other keywords that have a lower cost per click. Click-through rate, all of these then kind of filter down the cost per, the click-through rate and the advertising cost of sales. As these improve, these will naturally improve also. And eventually, you're trying to get the lowest advertising costs for sales moving forward over time. Mm-hmm. So I think that was just the items that I really wanted to cover on this specifics. I didn't want to get into a lot of the details of the data. I thought we could either talk about that now or during the audits that we have, if somebody has specific questions about things that aren't working or issues or problems.
I just had a quick question, if I can. It seems like with the high volume keywords, that would drive traffic to your product. But if it's costing too much money, then you're saying to go with lower volume keywords and put the higher volume in the negative keywords.
What I was saying is if that is the case where you have high volume, but your ACoS is not getting to the level you want to, what you can consider is look for lower volume keywords that you maybe have that are high opportunity that nobody else is targeting. So it'd be easier to start competing with that, getting sales, which will then improve your metrics. And you'll also start seeing advantages of being able then to compete for those higher volume keywords later, and or organically you'll start to see improvement.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes, thanks.
Other questions you guys have, or is Stephen or Melissa or Common want to add anything to any of this?
One thing that I want to add is the ACoS. Remember, all those numbers are guidelines, and ACoS is really dependent actually on your profit margin. Like if you have huge profit margins, you could afford to spend more money on your ads. Mm-hmm. It also depends, like if you're it's taking a cut out of your profits, right? So like if you're willing to pay $50 for like a click, but you're making more money on the back end, like it might be worth it for you to go to a higher ACoS. Mm-hmm. Another thing that you need to think about is that advertising also helps your organic sales.
Yeah.
So another metric that you can use besides ACoS is your ad spend over your total gross sales for your product. Then you could kind of see, hey, if I run ads, all my sales and my organic sales go up, then your ACoS actually could be considered a little lower, because ACoS only takes into account all the sales that you made from an advertisement. It doesn't take into account all the sales that are converting through organic sales. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
Very true. I agree with that.
I was just going to ask you to go back to that visual aid that you had, because I've never seen it put like that. But I think it's a really good way to, I'm a visual learner, so it's a good way to wrap my head around it. But if you can just go through again and explain this, I guess, and then ask questions as you're explaining it. I'm trying to think about, I had it, and then as Kyle was doing it. But if you can explain it and then ask questions of, from a perspective of someone that doesn't understand it. Because I think what the problem is when we're teaching this class is there's so much information that it's a little daunting to ask the proper question. So when you go and customers search for Amazon, that makes sense to me. and then the
Yeah.
keyword phrases is what I'm using. But then when you have the 2 lines going out to the sponsored ad and the product listing, like having those keywords in your listing, you're not going to show up in the ads unless it's in your listing. So I guess if you
Yeah.
could go through that and then break down those parts again. I'll try to ask the questions as I
Sure.
can them, but I thought this is really powerful, and I think just
Yeah, I was trying to put together, and you're probably amazed by my graphic ability here, but I was trying to just create some, how the flow is, because where are these numbers coming from? So, or the pieces, and so yeah, as I was trying to say here with the keyword phrase, if that customer, type that into the search and they're doing that, the only way you're going to be eligible to show up as a sponsored ad is it has to be both in your listing, and I shouldn't say it has to be, but probability much better is if you already have it in your listings, especially in the title and in the sponsored ads, because that's going to help drive what's relevant and whether the ad will show up, if it's relevant, becomes eligible or not, and at what position also, even depending on your bid, because the more relevant it is, Amazon will give you a better opportunity to be, at a higher position theoretically than somebody that maybe even bidding a little higher sometimes. So it basically, what I'm trying to say here is that while it's not maybe 100%, because who knows for sure in Amazon's algorithm, but ideally what you want to try to do is, if you were, going for kitchen timer, you would want to have, and somebody searched for that, you'd want to have kitchen timer in your title, especially at the beginning. And also you're targeting that in your sponsored ads, because then Amazon's going to say, okay, yeah, this is relevant to that particular keyword phrase for that product listing. Let's go ahead and say this ad is eligible. And then again, the eligibility doesn't necessarily mean it's going to show, because it depends on your bid amount and maybe some other factors, like your budget amount and other things that will say whether it actually will get shown or not. It's just, there's the eligibility part, and then there's will it actually show up. Every time it does show up to a potential customer, that becomes an impression.
So I guess just the stages of it. I guess that it's a big idea that's hard to speak about, and it is on Amazon, and Amazon changes the rules a little bit, but it is like a staging. Like you have to be relevant for them to run the ad, and then once you've passed that, gotten the green light in relevancy, like then you're put in a position to bid.
Yeah.
On that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
but
I have not seen it broken down. It
you
makes
think
sense.
about why Amazon is letting you why Amazon does it, right? Amazon's into making money, and it's into customer experience, right? So the only way you could do that is like if someone typed in kitchen timer and a bunch of ads for a computer printer was showing. One, Amazon won't make any money because no one's going to click on it. And two, it's a horrible customer experience, because imagine you typing kitchen timer and then the first 2 items you see on the listing are printers.
Right.
So those are like totally against what Amazon wants. So the only way they could guarantee relevance is to check your title, because that's the easiest way for them to do it. I mean, if it's in, no one would put kitchen timer in the title for their product ad of a printer. It just doesn't make sense. So that's the first thing they do. And then, so in that case, if it's more relevant, that shows relevance, which means it's a good customer experience, because kitchen timers are showing up on the first 2 spots, and most likely someone's going to click on it, because that way Amazon makes money. So that's kind of why they do it that way, if that makes sense.
So could it be relevant and still not show up because your bid may not be at the right amount?
Yes, 100%.
So you just have to play with that then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not an exact science, but it's a big idea. But this visual aid, I think, it paints the clearest picture I have seen of going. I have a lot of questions of why is my ads not showing up, or how do I find my ads? And this is the big idea that is hard to wrap your head around. It is a 2-stage process. It has to be relevant, and then you have to And like Rob said, you don't necessarily have to win the bid, but if kitchen timer is the item that you have and it is in your title, and they see that your item is more relevant for that search than somebody else's that has the same piece in their ad and they're bidding for it, they might put you above that one because they see that yours is more relevant and yours might get more clicks in that space. And like what Common said, they're trying to make more money. So if they see, okay, we put your ad here on kitchen timers and yours the one that's getting clicked on and yours the one that's selling, we're going to put your ad over other people's ads, even though they might outbid you technically. Now there's a certain dollar amount that they won't go over. Like if somebody says they'll pay $2 and I'm paying 50 cents, they're probably going to go to $2. But there is a leeway, I guess, in that space of bidding.
And part of also with regards to impressions and whether your ad shows up is what they have is a quality score. And I don't, know all the details of it, but if one of the things is, if you've been a seller for a longer period of time versus somebody that's brand new coming in and you're bidding very similar, the problem, and even maybe a little higher, they're going to give somebody that has establishment probably a better opportunity to show up versus you. So it may take a little time to build up things as you're developing and proving to Amazon, like Common said, they want to make money. So if you can prove you can convert and make money and you've done that, they're going to give you preferential treatment, but giving you a better quality score and giving you opportunity to show up more frequently than somebody else.
That's also why the PPC goes down.
Yes.
Because the more relevant you are and the more consistent, your actual cost will go down.
That is correct. Yep. 100%.
Yeah, that's why click-through rate is so important. Which, I mean, as it mentions, click-through rate is how many times your ad is shown and how many times it's clicked on. So, for example, if you have 100 impressions and you have 10 clicks, your click-through rate is 10%.
Yep.
Now, if you have 100 impressions and you have 50 clicks, then your click-through rate is 50%.
Yep.
Now, if the person who has 10% is bidding a dollar, right? Amazon hypothetically would be making $10 for every time they show the ad. But the other person, if they were bidding 50 cents, for the same amount of times you're showing it 100 times, they would actually make $25. So that's why they might show something that is a higher click-through rate, even though they're bidding less. Because remember, Amazon wants to make more money, right?
Yep.
So I don't know if that makes sense. I know it's a lot of numbers. So.
Yeah. There's so many variables in this, and it's like, it's, not everybody's at the same position, like I said, with the quality score and many other factors, how your ad reacts can be very different compared to your competitor because they're you don't know their history and what their proven things are. So even though you feel like you should be beating this person out and they're still beating you, based on sometimes what you'll see is like, what is a recommended cost per click? If you're relatively new, it may be that you're going to have to bid higher than that to really start showing up enough. And it's just more, you just kind of go through it and focus on what Amazon really wants, which is the sales. But the way we can find the sales is, okay, from the data that we're buying, how can then we update our product listing so that people will be more amenable to click on it and buy from you, and target a lot of times lower keywords, or higher opportunity keywords that nobody else is targeting, which will allow you to compete at a much lower competitive level cost-wise.
And one of the ways that I do to make sure that I'm actually appearing for the keywords and stuff is that I check it daily. Mm-hmm. That's just putting it in the search window and searching for those terms and making sure that my ad is showing up. And because there's a report that says that you showed up on page 1, but you don't know if you're on the top ad or the middle ad or the bottom ad.
Yeah.
So if you physically check it every day for at least for the first couple of weeks that you're running an ad, you'll know that you're consistently showing up for that keyword.
Yeah. Also check mobile, a lot of times we'll check on the desktop and things.
Mobile, but there's no programs for that. I don't know why, but there's not.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if it's an API thing or what it is but nobody's doing mobile right now, so I'm not sure why.
Yeah, because there's a lot of times you'll show up for mobile, but you won't for the computer. So how are you supposed to know if you don't check?
Right. Mm-hmm. Stephen, did you need me to go any further on, we talked about some of those pieces, but was there anything else you needed
No, I
clarification?
just thought it was a good talking point. I mean,
Okay.
just going through this, I think more conversations can be had,
Yeah.
especially the way that you have like the CTR and the ACOST, just a visual representation of that, and then kind of how they do it, give you the
Yeah.
number.
Yeah, because I was trying to create this in the sense that because I did it more, I was trying to use my wife as an example. It's like, do you understand this now? Based on, because she's very visual, she's not a numbers person. So because we could just look at the numbers, but sometimes you get lost. It's like, okay, where do impressions that whole thing come together? And so I was trying to graphically show as much as possible, how this process is a high level overview and where those pieces are and where to focus on.
With this chart right here, where do you find that most people, new like myself, get hung up on? Where do they have a tough time moving forward?
Boy, it's really hard to say. I would, boy, that's a loaded question because it really depends on what products and market that you're getting into, how long you've been selling, and what, and if your target, if you're able to find some decent keywords, this part over here may be pretty easy to get, a lot of ads showing up, and so let's just assume that was the case. The big thing maybe then is this part here, the clicks. Is like, is somebody really clicking on my ad or not? So it's kind of going back to the PPI thing. It's like, where's, when you look at the reports, where am I lacking? Is it I'm not seeing the traffic or I'm not seeing the conversion?
Right.
Start looking at these pieces and try to identify, or at least test and try different things, what other area, wherever that area is. So it's really hard for me to give you, everybody's hitting the spots, but in general, because I think any of these are potential issues. You just got to figure out which one is the one for you.
What would be the problem if you're relevant, but you're not getting the clicks?
Well, that's what I was saying. It's like normally it's the image, maybe it's the price.
Okay.
Those type of things when somebody's looking at it, and sometimes you can take a step back and look at the, if say it's the click is the issue, is nobody's clicking, and sometimes it's hard to be unbiased, but to look at your ad or your listing and say, why wouldn't somebody click on it? Maybe are they confused about something, and maybe add in some additional clarifications or qualifications or other types of things that make it clearer what the person would get. But maybe it is totally clear, but the price isn't right. Especially if you have a product that's more brand driven or maybe not brand driven, but they have a lot of reviews compared to yours. And then they're like, I'm not sure about this person. So, it's so many factors. It's really hard to give an exact thing, but in general, the clicks, it's the image, price, or title is probably the three main things that would impact whether somebody's clicking on your listing.
Would you intentionally want to have your price lower just to initially get clicks and then raise your price over time?
Yes, 100%. Because even though you may say, okay, I want to, in the long term, profitability wise, and looking at my competition, they're selling $20, for this. I may want to do it at 17, 15, 13, even, depending on your budget ability, to be a loss leader to get the data that you need to get because you need the clicks to get the data. So yes, for sure. If you can do that, that would definitely make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Rob 100% on that, because you're paying for data, and lowering the costs allows people to click on your ad when they see it.
Yeah.
It gives them an additional reason to click on yours. Because like he said, if somebody has a whole bunch of reviews or somebody's product pictures look a lot better than yours, the price is something that will entice customers to actually click on your ads.
And I mean, another way to kind of look at it is the questions like, why are these ads showing instead of mine? That kind of flips it so you're not as biased versus Another good thing is actually like bring a friend over, tell them, hey, I want you to search for this on Amazon, and pick the item that you would click on, and then ask them to explain why you did that.
Yeah,
that's really kind of getting real good data, because in all honesty, we're all too close to our private label products because they're our babies, right? Like we came in from reception, we brought them up. It's gonna be like, people are stupid for not clicking on it. People are stupid for not buying it. I mean, as much as you want to separate it out, that's kind of just the way it is, right? So the only way to really get unbiased data is just go out there and just ask your friends. Like, everyone's buying on Amazon. So even if you pull your wife and go, well, maybe not your wife because she's too close, but like a friend, like, hey, can you search on this and pick the 3 products that you have clicked on to see which would you bought and tell me why. That's actually a really good way to figure out like what your competitors are doing better than you.
I love, Rob, that you went back to the PPI and what Brett always says. The first question he asks, and you said this, is it a traffic problem or a conversion problem? And that will lead you to problem solve accurately. So that's really a good place to start when you're starting to look at you're not getting what you're wanting to get. Ask that question and dig deeper into that to solve it.
A question about keywords. You've ran your auto campaign. You have some keywords that have come up in your auto that you want to use. How do you explain to somebody how that they should put it in a broad match manual or in a phrase match manual?
You're saying when you have data from the auto to move to phrase, broad, or exact? Or normally for me, if I have something in the auto that I want, I only put it in exact. If I'm initially starting out and I have some basic kind of seed keywords and I want to see what's available around that, I'll put those in the broad and the phrase. Let's say if it's kitchen timer, because I want to see what phrase and broad is around that. But in auto, it may come up with something like, something with timer, blah, blah, whatever. I'm not going to, for me, I don't put that in broad or phrase. I just put it in exact. But I guess the other option is, as I'm thinking about this, is like, I guess if you want to see what other opportunities are around that keyword, especially if you are getting some decent, looked good, to be able to say, I want to test this out, you could see, if there's some other opportunities and put that in the broader phrase.
Right. That's what I was trying to point out, is that sometimes you don't go automatically to an exact. You may want to find it or fine tune it a little bit by putting it in the phrase.
Yeah, that does. Yeah, you're good. I normally don't, but I can see if I'm looking for more opportunities that you might want to take something that's an exact that you found in auto and put it in phrase abroad and seeing what other, keyword combinations come up that might be, that'll work for you.
All right. Okay. I was just making sure that everybody else was thinking the same way.
No, that was a good point.
Excuse me, can I ask something?
Sure.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that the Amazon algorithm puts most weights into the title?
Currently that is the case. And especially the beginning of the title, they seem to really focus that being more relevant than the rest of the title. But it depends on how competitive your market is. Sometimes it's like you might have a phrase, kitchen timer, for example, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in that phrase. It could be timer kitchen, as long as both words are in there. Sometimes the phrase itself being in the title is important. So it's really depends on your market and the keywords that you're targeting. And that's some of the tests you could do, is to tweak some and move some words around and see how it may change or not.
Yeah, well, it's probably a little bit off topic, but this week we tried to publish a couple of notebooks with KDP, and our listings got rejected 4 times by Amazon, saying that our title did not match the exact title on the cover of the notebook. And then I called them today and asking them what the strategy behind that was, because before we published at CreateSpace, and we had like keywords and the title and everything perfectly optimized. With KDP, she said, no, you have to put the title on the cover in the listing. Well, I said, how is that? Now people are gonna, adapt the title on the cover to get the title, the written title right in the listing, right? So it doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't know how that plays out with the algorithm. How are people going to find us if we have to write the exact title and no more keywords in the title itself?
Yeah, just an FYI, what I've been talking about is more on physical products type
Seller
things, private
Central.
label. Yeah. KDP merch would be totally different. So maybe Jenny or Stephen can, shed any more light on what you just mentioned.
I can answer this. I'm curious to see what Jenny says, though.
Go ahead, I'll fill in.
CreateSpace and KDP are very different platforms. CreateSpace allowed you to do many different things with the title, and KDP does not like that at all. The subtitle is where I've been playing around, and even there, they're very strict. I think it's for the reason that the title does hold so much weight, and they want to, when people are searching for books, they want their customers that are looking for books that type in exactly what they're looking for to come up with that book. Now, we have been attempting to manipulate that system a lot, and kind of how we teach is like finding that sub niche that very caters to your book. So if you're trying to go after like cat journals, you're going to really want to niche down to find like cat mom journals for feline cats or some breed of cats, and then kind of use that as your title. But this is because we're doing a lot of books. I don't know what type of books you're trying to sell, or if you're doing journals, I'm assuming that you're doing a lot of different books and not just really focusing on one book. But the title of your book on KDP has to match exactly the cover of your book. There is no getting around it, at least that I have found. The subtitle, you can sometimes sneak additional keywords in, but they will reject those too and say metadata is kind of their default answer for anything that they don't like. And I have shown Jenny many times where I mass upload a lot of things, and some books go through and some books don't, and there doesn't seem to really be a rhyme or reason.
And how does this affect the searchability of a book published by KDP compared to CreateSpace?
CreateSpace, because the title is so powerful, CreateSpace is a better platform to use to get your books ranked. The problem is CreateSpace is dying and everything is moving over to KDP, so you're just going to have to find different ways to do it. You're not going to be able to put all those additional search terms in the title, but if you do a good job at putting, because now they allow you 7 spaces in the back end. So if you do a good job at your back end keywords, because everybody is competing almost on a level ground, that's where those additional keywords have to live now, is in the back ends.
Okay.
I would add, no, go ahead.
What we're playing around a lot with, is it better to put keyword phrases in there? Is it better just to put a whole bunch of random keywords, not random, but keywords that relate to your product and just kind of mash them up? Is it better to just put a single keyword in each one? I don't have an answer for you for that, just because I don't know. It's hard to track all the stuff that we're doing currently.
Well, and I think I think we're seeing this in a lot of areas on Amazon, not just with KDP, but it seems, well, Amazon tends to be very fluid, and they're always changing and updating. And this year, was it in the spring when they really kind of got more aggressive to move things over to KDP? It was somewhere, it was this year, but and then they added the option to be able to do ads with KDP that you can't do with CreateSpace. And so my opinion on this is that I think they're still working things out. They will always be changing things. And so, I mean, we're playing in their sandbox. And so we go with the rules that they're giving us at the time. And, you can get creative with getting the title on, as far as, I don't know if you're concerned at all about even what the book cover looks like, because you put, maybe you don't want your title to look on the front somewhere, what do you do with that? And there's, you can put it on the spine or whatever. But my guess is, I think what happened was they had bought CreateSpace and with the intention to provide their own self-publishing platform. used that, and now they're building it underneath the KDP platform, or they have built it. But I don't think that it's set in stone at this
No, it's
point.
definitely its transitional stage. I just want to reiterate what Jenny just said, because that is a very clever way that we found, me and Nathaniel, to sneak keywords into our title and not like destroy the cover. Is we do a lot of like image only covers and then just have the spine be the title. The book has to be over a certain amount of pages. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It was 100. They say 100, but it seems to be more like 130.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends.
But you can do a longer SEO heavy title and then sneak that onto the spine so that when people are searching, it doesn't say all of those words on the cover of the book, because it just looks bad as the hero image.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
This was good, Rob. Anybody else have any other questions?
Rob, do you want to touch on sometimes why there's ASINs in the search term report?
Yeah. I thought I had that in my slides somewhere, but I don't remember it showing up now. So just as a reminder, and that's a great question. Glad you brought that up. Most of you, when you're doing, or what you'll see when you're running an auto campaign, you'll see ASINs as part of the keywords that are there. And what that is it's how it happened was somebody did a search and went to your competitor. Within their listing, there are ads. They go through their listing and they see your ad and they click on it and they come to your product. So what you see is the kind of the path, if you will, of that last place it was before it came into yours, what product they were on. A lot of times people just say, oh yeah, whatever, and just kind of ignore it. However, there is some great opportunities with that where you can investigate and try to kind of reverse engineers, like why did they select mine versus that competitor? It may give you opportunities of a bundle opportunity, a multi-pack, how to improve your product, maybe, additional products that you can create based on that knowledge. So it allows you to, take that information that's there and do further investigation. But basically the reason it is there is they were in a competitor's product and saw your ad within their list, the competitor's listing, and then clicked on your ad within that listing. So. Was there anything more common you wanted to add on that part?
I think another thing is that there's really nothing you can do about it. Like if there's a huge ad spend, there's high clicks and no sales, like that's just the cost of doing business. What I've heard people try to do is they try to find the keywords that are on that listing and
put
make it negative exact to try to get the ASIN out.
Right.
But really, like people will try putting in the ASIN in an exact keyword match. It doesn't work. So just know that, that was like one of my first questions when I looked, and it's like, I never bid on this like weird character thing. Like, what is this? Like, oh, it's an ASIN. So, so I would do what Rob is like, try to figure out, well, why is the customer doing that?
Yeah.
And either, like you said, take advantage of it or move it around. But there's a reason why a customer is taking that path. They don't just randomly click on stuff for no reason. So.
Yeah. Very true. And thanks for bringing that up. I thought I had it in my slides, but I missed it.
What do you guys feel about the new targeting where you can target products now?
I personally haven't done anything with that yet, but I think there's potential there. I don't know have you done anything with it yet, Melissa? I haven't done it.
I'm testing it, but I just started a couple days ago, so maybe next week I'll be able to report on it, but I'm not sure about it.
Yeah, it's so new yet. I haven't really heard anybody else talking about it, or and like I said, I don't have any direct experience utilizing it. So,
hey, Melissa, can you kind of like explain what that is specifically compared to sponsored keyword search?
Well, according to Amazon, it is. Hold on. Product targeting allows you to choose specific product categories, brands, or other product features that are similar to the product your ad to. So like he was just saying that you'll appear on their product page. Mm-hmm. That is a way to get in there when you want to be in there. That's the way I perceive it.
Yeah, I love this idea. And it's, I guess, more for KDP and books or KDP and merch. But I've had more ads rejected attempting that than anything else. I've had some Seller Central listings go through, but for some reason, they really don't like how we're setting up a lot of those ads. I'd say 95% of them get rejected.
When I set it up, there was certain, wasn't brands, but certain ASINs that it wouldn't let me target, and it was definitely related to that particular ASIN, but it didn't let that ASIN go through. I don't know if that's just a glitch right now or what, since it's still in beta.
Yeah, it's very new. I would say when they get the ironed out, it should be pretty powerful, especially if you are even thinking about bundling and your product seems to relate very heavily to another person's product. Putting it on their product might get you.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Also bought, and just finding where your ads show up or other products like yours show up on other people's listings like that, I think is super powerful.
Have you guys used much headline ads, or do you have a brand that you can use headline ads?
I haven't, but I know.
He's shaking his no.
I'm going no. Steven's yes. So no, I haven't.
I don't think there's anything with Amazon that I have not tried or tested. I don't know. I think just like targeted ads, it's too many things are changing right now for me to feel like I can tell somebody good advice. Is how I'm going to say that. If you have a brand and you're really trying to build that brand, it's definitely something to try. If you are doing it to see if you can start building a brand, I wouldn't suggest it, because it seems like what you're paying for is that, like, hammering that brand home to people. Like if you're trying to take over a space or be a competitor in that space, running those banner ads and building a brand that way seems very difficult. But if you have some brand recognition, I would definitely test those ads, because it seems like it should be bringing in more traffic. Like say somebody like Nike, if Nike has a banner ad, you'd be more apt to click on a Nike banner ad than you would Steven's shoes. Like you'd be like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. I'm not going to click on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that. You know, if you watch some of the headline ads that go through, and it's like, why did they even make that ad? Because you can't really tell what the product is, and they didn't do a good job at it.
Yeah. Yes. And if you are going to do that, my brother is a graphic designer, so I have a huge leg up. But if you're not a graphic designer, don't spend time trying to make that. Like definitely go. And if you're doing branding, you should already have some good branding imagery. I would use that there. But if you don't, then I definitely would not try to do anything with that type of ad.
Yeah. Well, I was a graphic artist for 15 years, so.
Oh, there you go.
Well, you can test it and definitely try it out. I have not found a lot of success with it. So
I haven't so far, but I do seem to be appearing on my banner ad on my competitors a lot when I do check on it. So I think it's getting me recognized.
So just one other thing, since this is a take action group, which wanted to make sure that everybody kind of is take action for the next step. And I would suggest that everybody go through essentially their search term report and find out what your main issue is right now. Is it traffic? Is it conversion? And use different strategies that we talked about to identify or target what that is and do some action to try to improve upon whatever that issue is.
Rob, I came in kind of late. Did you show how to access the search term report?
I didn't hear, but essentially it's under, if you go to Campaign Manager, it's under advertising reports. And then I think it's the default one that always pops up is the search term report. But there's a drop down there. You can select different reports. But
maybe I can post in the group a small short video of how to get there too, in the private.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. People don't know. Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that you can pick daily or total, and they just leave it on total, and then they don't understand why they don't see their days worth. So.
Melissa, what date range do you usually use when you're looking at your search term report?
I usually do at least a week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was like, I think she checks every day.
Yeah, I do. I don't do the report every day, but I do at least a week at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that I noticed is, and because I was, going through and I was, like you're saying, it was defaulting to just total. And so I was like saying, okay, well, let's look at the last month or whatever. And the only downside of that is it combines multiple days together with regards to impressions and clicks and things. So you're seeing a kind of a range of things. And sometimes I've just looked at yesterday's, so if I'm looking today, I'll just look at what was yesterday so I can check to see what happens every single day, as opposed to when you look at those more broad ones, it combines data together. And sometimes it's a little harder to understand what's happening in a shorter period.
Yeah. I totally agree on that.
And just to encourage you guys, a lot of people right now, they don't go through the reports. So you just going through the reports and understanding that, you guys have a leg up on the competition. Secondly, all of this is theoretical. So I think, and you kind of have it in your head, but you won't really understand it until you do it.
Mm-hmm.
You go through the analysis until you actually run into those issues and look at the reference that Rob goes through. I equate it to how you learn to ride a bike. You can read about riding your bike all you want, how to do the pedals, how fast to turn, but until you get on that bike and do it and fall a couple times, you're not going to learn it. So take it, understand it, and we're going through it, but I think for you guys to fully really understand it, you guys are going to have to analyze reports. So, and take advantage of us, we're here, we're always here to answer questions. We're always there'll always be someone to answer you, So take advantage of that. That's why you guys are paying extra for this,
Right.
So.
And just what I reiterated earlier is, especially the auto campaigns can be a money suck. So definitely you got to look at that report and get rid of items and the negative keywords that are big drains on your money. And you can also set your daily limit globally so that you only spend so much per day, so that you don't lose a lot of money, especially at the beginning when you're trying to learn this. You may not be as efficient in being able to, be optimized in how much money you're spending.
I'm a prime example. I feared pay-per-click.
Mm-hmm.
A year and a half ago, I said, no, I'm not doing it. I don't understand it. And Abe is the one that actually pushed me into doing it. And now I just love it. I think it's helped my business 100%. But yeah, I was totally afraid of it before. And as soon as I actually got in there and started doing it, and then I'm like, oh, this makes sense. Oh, this makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think taking that step is the first step, the best step that you'll ever make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just another related to that, being fearful or going back to the money aspect of controlling it. It's not uncommon, and at least it's been for me, my very first day, a lot of times, depending on what I'm targeting, I can blow through my budget pretty quick. But then I can refine that. But sometimes people get scared and it's like, holy crap, I just spent a ton of money and I didn't get anything out of it. And they just stop, where you can control the whole thing. But, you may spend a little bit more at the first day or two, especially in the auto campaign, because, you're just putting a ton of, exposing your ad potentially, depending on the keywords and your listing that you have. So,
and it opens up doors. PPC is for private label, more than for private label. If you offer it as a service to any brand, a lot of brands don't know much. So you'd be an expert in that house, you know. And I mean, other sellers, if you want to help other people out, do something like they would want to learn about PPC. So it's a really good skill to invest in. It's almost like investing in communication. It's kind of universal across the whole board. Like if you learn about communication, how to communicate well, it helps you all around. PPC will help you all around in terms of selling on e-commerce. Because if you move off to your own website to drive traffic, it's PPC. If you do Amazon, if you do like eBay, all that other stuff, they have PPC programs.
Yep.
So I mean, putting the time and the effort, yeah, it's confusing, yeah, it's overwhelming, but it will pay off at the end.
I think that's a good idea. Someone mentioned doing a video on the search term report. Where would that be posted once it's completed?
I mentioned in the chat let's post that in the regular private label group, if that's okay.
Okay.
I think that'd be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I've answered a lot of questions on how to find their reports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Were you going to do that comment, or do you want me to do it?
I could do it. It's fine.
Okay.
I'll try to get it posted tonight, as long as the 9-month-old cooperates.
Cool. So can you real quick again, what's the homework for next week?
So the homework, what we want to do is we're going to go through, actually, you know what? Let me see. I thought, I did have it here. I forgot. So what we want to do is we want to review your search term report. You want to identify the main issue to improve traffic or conversion. If the problem is you're seeing low traffic, consider targeting other keywords or update the title, you know, with those and update the title of the listing and or find additional keywords, and then make sure to also target those in the exact match campaign to see if you can get better traffic coming through. And if it's a conversion, focus on these 3 items mainly: the price, make sure it's lower. You may need to drop it over a few days, $1 or $2, and seeing how the clicks come through. Pictures, if you don't have many pictures, consider adding more, or at least rotating any pictures you have to the main image, because that's mainly what people see through the sponsored ad. And then making sure your title is representative of your product. I would suggest if you're going to make changes to these that you would only do one at a time, so you can see the effect of the change. So if you're going to update the price, don't change the pictures or the title, and vice versa. So because if you change too many things at the same time, you don't know which one made the difference. So those are the things you just want to focus on. Whatever the issue is, make some small changes to see if you can improve either your traffic or your conversion, or at least the clicks, not conversion of sales, but the click portion.
Cool.
And definitely feel, to reach out to us, like Common said, if you have questions and as you're starting to move down this, we can help you out.
Ryan, can you add a link to these slides in the replay email?
I'm going to have to send them to you guys, so I have them.
Yes, I will. What I'll probably do is include them in the email.
Okay, with the replay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send the diagram I had and this to you guys.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Woohoo!
All right.
I don't.
Right.
Yeah, never mind. I'm gonna keep quiet. Trying to get myself in trouble. Oh my gosh! All right, guys.
Does that mean?
Oh, go ahead.
Jenny, are you going to start using PPC?
I use it on. Are you asking? Did you ask me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I've used it. I just. I don't really have a comment. It is great. I just don't enjoy this part of so I'll leave it at that. We'll leave it to the people who really want to dig in and I
didn't
kind
mean
of
to put you on the spot.
no, you're fine. The thing for me is I just don't retain the stuff I'm not interested in as well, and so it's almost more work, right? Because I'm always going back. Okay, what was this again? Okay, I gotta do, and it's like just doing the same thing over. I don't know. It's a mental block or whatever. But yeah, no, I've used it and do use it. So anyway. So you guys, if you have questions, post them in the regular PPL Facebook group. And you can tag any of these guys or us and we'll answer them. And the slides and the replay will be sent out via email. Otherwise, it's the same time, same channel, same everything next week. And Melissa is leading us off for, what's your topic for next week?
Troubleshooting and looking at your reports.
She's got some a cool system that she uses for tracking things that she's going to share. So don't want to miss it. I think we're good.
Yep.
Unless there's any more questions.
Cool.
Thank you. Good job. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, very welcome.
Rob.
All right. We'll see you next week, guys.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.